My boyfriend invited his female bestie to our anniversary dinner. She ordered the most expensive wine on my tab while they discussed their upcoming art collaboration. I excused myself to the bathroom, paid my share only, and left through the back door. Her 47 missed calls started when the bill arrived. I'm Meredith, 29, and I'd been with my boyfriend, Noah, 31, for 3 years. 3 whole years. We'd talked about marriage, looked at apartments together, even discussed baby names during those lazy Sunday morning conversations. My mom kept asking when we'd make it official and reminding me that my biological clock wasn't getting any younger. Everything felt solid until his best friend, Kelsey, moved back to town 8 months ago after her messy divorce. Last Tuesday was our 3-year anniversary. I'd made reservations at Luminous, this gorgeous farm-to-table place downtown. Not crazy expensive, but special. The kind of place where they bring you amuse-bouches and the waitstaff knows about wine pairings. I'd been planning it for a month, even bought a new dress that made me feel confident and beautiful. The morning of our anniversary, Noah drops this bomb on me over coffee. "Hey babe, Kelsey just got back from that art residency in Portland, and she's only in town for a few days. I invited her to join us tonight. You don't mind, right?" I minded. A lot, but Noah had this way of making me feel like a jealous girlfriend whenever I voiced concerns about Kelsey. After 3 years and all those conversations about our future, I'd learned to pick my battles, maybe too well. "It's our anniversary dinner," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice level. "I know, but she's been going through such a rough time with the divorce, and you two should really get to know each other better anyway. Come on, don't be like that." There it was, that phrase that always made me feel unreasonable for having boundaries. Don't be like that. Like what? Like someone who expected her anniversary dinner to be about her relationship? Red flag. Massive red flag. But after investing 3 years and fielding constant questions from family about when we'd settle down, I didn't want to be the difficult girlfriend who couldn't handle his friendships. Apparently, I was an idiot for that mindset. We arrived at Luminous at 7 p.m. sharp. Kelsey was already there, sitting at our table, my carefully chosen reservation, with a martini in hand and looking like she'd stepped out of an art magazine. Hair perfectly tousled in that effortless way that probably took an hour to achieve. Wearing one of those flowing artistic scarves that somehow managed to look both casual and expensive. The dinner became a masterclass in feeling invisible. They spent the first 20 minutes catching up like I wasn't even sitting there. "Oh my God, remember that gallery opening in Brooklyn? That curator was such a pretentious ass. Your installation pieces from that show were absolutely incredible." I tried steering the conversation toward, our anniversary and the relationship we were supposedly celebrating. "So, Noah, remember our first date when you took me to that terrible sushi place and we laughed about the wasabi incident?" Kelsey cut right in without missing a beat. "Speaking of artistic spaces, Noah, I meant to tell you, I got us that gallery slot for December. We could do a collaborative show, your photography with my sculptural work. It would be absolutely amazing. Us?" They were already a collaborative us, apparently. I sat there like an expensive potted plant while they discussed lighting requirements, wall space, and opening night guest lists. My anniversary dinner had transformed into their business meeting, complete with detailed planning that seemed to assume I'd either disappeared or was simply furniture. Then came the wine order that changed everything. I'd planned to share a nice bottle with Noah, maybe something in the $60 range. We'd always split everything evenly. It was our established pattern, part of what I'd thought made us compatible partners who respected each other's financial boundaries. But when the sommelier approached with his leather-bound wine list, Kelsey's eyes lit up like she'd found buried treasure. "What's your most premium red? Something really special for a celebration?" The sommelier's professional smile widened. "We have a 2018 Barolo from Piemonte, very limited production, exceptional vintage, $340. I nearly choked on my water. $340. That was more than my monthly car payment. That was grocery money for 2 weeks. That was a significant chunk of my carefully budgeted discretionary spending. Kelsey grinned at Noah like they were sharing some private joke. Perfect. We're celebrating new beginnings, right? Noah just nodded enthusiastically. Didn't ask me what I thought, didn't even glance in my direction to gauge my reaction, didn't acknowledge that this decision would impact my finances significantly. Sounds amazing, Kels. Kels. He'd never called me by a nickname like that. 3 years together and I was still Babe or Meredith, but she got the intimate shortened name after 8 months back in town. They made a toast with the ridiculously expensive wine. To artistic collaboration and new adventures ahead. Not to us. Not to 3 years of building something together. Not to the anniversary we were supposedly celebrating. To their professional partnership and whatever new adventures meant in their private language of inside jokes and shared artistic vision. I excused myself to use the bathroom, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Locked myself in the furthest stall and did quick math that made my stomach twist into knots. My entree, $32. His meal, $38. Her duck with all the expensive add-ons, $45. My 2 carefully chosen cocktails, $24. His single beer, $8. Her martini plus her share of that astronomical wine, $78 total. My share of that wine alone would be $113. With tax and tip calculated generously, I was looking at roughly $150 for what had become the most humiliating dinner of my adult life. Something crystallized in that bathroom stall. This wasn't just about money, though the financial presumption stung. This was about respect, boundaries, and the fact that my boyfriend of 3 years had invited another woman to our anniversary dinner and then allowed her to make expensive decisions on my behalf while completely ignoring my existence. I walked to the bar area and flagged down a different server, my decision made with the kind of clarity that only comes when you've finally had enough. I need to pay for my portion of table 14 separately. Can you split the check? She looked confused but accommodated my request. I paid cash, $150 plus a $30 tip for the hassle and awkwardness I was creating. Then I walked straight out of the front door, got in my car, and drove home through the city streets with my hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel. I turned my phone off for a full hour. Needed the silence to process what had just happened and what it meant for my relationship. When I finally turned it back on, my screen exploded with notifications. 47 missed calls, 89 increasingly frantic text messages. From Noah. Where did you go? This isn't funny, Meredith. The bill came and they said you already paid your part. Are you serious right now? You left me with a $280 bill. Answer your phone. This is so embarrassing. Everyone in the restaurant is staring. We're done if you don't come back and fix this right now. From Kelsey. Really mature, girl. You made Noah look like a complete idiot in front of everyone. What kind of girlfriend does this? He deserves so much better than someone who can't handle adult friendships. I stared at those messages for a long time. 3 years of relationship reduced to threats and accusations from the man I'd thought I might marry, while his best friend felt comfortable enough to lecture me about my own relationship via text message. I texted Noah back. You invited someone to our anniversary dinner without discussing it with me. She ordered $340 wine without consulting anyone about the cost. You both ignored me all evening while planning your art collaboration. I paid for what I consumed. Figure out the rest. Then I blocked Kelsey's number and went to bed, though sleep didn't come easily. The next morning, Noah showed up at my apartment. We'd been talking about moving in together officially for months. His lease was ending, and we'd discussed taking that next step, but I'd kept my own place. Thank God for my cautious nature and financial independence. We need to talk, he announced, pushing past me into my living room like he owned the space. But his opening line wasn't an apology or acknowledgement of what had happened. How could you humiliate me like that in front of Kelsey, in front of everyone at the restaurant? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? How could I humiliate you? It was our anniversary dinner, Noah. Why was she even there? She's my best friend. You're supposed to support my friendships, not sabotage them because you're feeling insecure. There was that word again, insecure. The label every woman dreads hearing, designed to make reasonable boundaries sound like character flaws. Best friends don't crash anniversary dinners and order $340 wine on their friend's girlfriend's credit card. He switched tactics, going for the guilt trip. You left me there, Meredith. Do you know how mortifying that was? I had to call my brother Jamie to help cover the bill because I didn't have enough cash on me. You know what was mortifying? Being a third wheel at my own anniversary dinner while you two planned your romantic art collaboration and made toasts that didn't include our relationship. It's not romantic, it's professional. This is exactly why we have problems. You're jealous of my success and can't handle me having creative partnerships. That accusation stung deeper than he probably realized. I'd actually been incredibly supportive of his photography career over 3 years. I'd helped him build his portfolio website, connected him with contacts from my own professional network, even loaned him expensive equipment for his projects. But somehow expressing hurt about being excluded from our anniversary celebration had become jealousy of his success. I'm not jealous of your success, Noah. I'm upset that you prioritized Kelsey's feelings over mine on what was supposed to be our special evening and then allowed her to make financial decisions that affected both of us without any discussion. Maybe if you weren't so insecure about me having female friends, you could handle normal social situations. This is exactly why our relationship doesn't work. The words hit like physical blows. 3 years of building something together, and my legitimate hurt about being sidelined was reduced to insecurity and inability to handle normal social situations. The gaslighting was so smooth I almost questioned my own perception of events, but I didn't. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me? We're done. Take your stuff and leave. He actually laughed, as if my boundary setting was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. You're breaking up with me because I wouldn't let you control who I spend time with? I'm breaking up with you because you invited another woman to our anniversary dinner, allowed her to order expensive wine on my tab, ignored me all evening while planning your future together, and then called me insecure when I had reasonable expectations about being included in my own celebration. You've got until Sunday to collect your belongings. Noah stormed out, calling me every variation of unreasonable and controlling as he slammed the door. The sound echoed in my apartment like the end of an era. Here's where the situation became more complicated. Noah had been staying at my place most nights for the past 8 months while apartment hunting. His lease had ended, and we'd discussed moving in together officially, so he'd been temporarily staying with me. Temporarily had stretched considerably, and most of his belongings were scattered throughout my space. But I had possessions at his shared photography studio too. Specifically, my vintage camera collection that I'd been building since college. 15 carefully curated film cameras, Leicas, Hasselblads, some rare medium format pieces, worth roughly $3,200 total. I'd loaned them to Noah months earlier for a photography project he was working on, and they'd been sitting on a shelf in his studio space downtown ever since. Those cameras weren't just valuable financially, they represented years of careful collecting, research, and genuine passion for film photography. Each one had a story, a reason I'd chosen it, specific technical qualities that made it special. I documented every acquisition on my photography blog, complete with detailed specs and the circumstances of how I'd found each piece. Saturday morning arrived with Noah, Kelsey, and his brother Jamie at my door, ready to collect his belongings. I'd already boxed most of his stuff, clothes, books, toiletries, his laptop, and personal electronics. Everything neatly packed and ready for transport. But Kelsey spoke first, which should have been my second red flag of the day. Look, Meredith, we got off on the wrong foot. This whole situation is just a misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. There's nothing to misunderstand. Here are Noah's belongings. I gestured to the neatly stacked boxes by my door. Noah pushed past her, scanning my living room like he was conducting inventory. Where's my camera gear? Your camera gear is in those boxes. My camera collection is still at your studio. His face went completely blank. What camera collection? My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a staircase. The vintage cameras I loaned you in March, the Leica M3, the Hasselblad 500C, the Pentax 67, all 15 of them. They're on the shelf unit in your studio space. I don't know what you're talking about. Absolute bullshit, and we both knew it. He knew exactly what I was referring to. Those cameras were my pride and joy, and he'd borrowed them specifically for a wedding photography project. I documented each one extensively on my photography blog, complete with technical specifications and acquisition stories. There were Instagram posts showing Noah using my Leica at various shoots over the past several months. Noah, I have photos of you using my Leica at that wedding shoot just last month. There are dozens of pictures of my collection in your studio. Kelsey jumped into the conversation uninvited. Look, emotions are running high after breakups. I'm sure they'll turn up somewhere safe, right, babe? Babe. She called my ex-boyfriend of exactly 12 hours babe right in front of me. The audacity was breathtaking, but it also clarified the timeline in a way that made my blood run cold. That's when the pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Noah had access to my camera collection. Kelsey had been going through a rough divorce and struggling financially. Her sudden interest in collaborating with Noah professionally had coincided perfectly with our relationship hitting rough patches. The anniversary dinner hadn't been spontaneous friendship. It had been orchestrated. You have 24 hours to return my complete camera collection, I said evenly, looking directly at Noah. Or I'm filing a police report for theft. Noah actually laughed, but there was no humor in it. Good luck proving I took anything. Maybe you just misplaced them somewhere and forgot. This is what you get for humiliating him at that restaurant, Kelsey added with a smile that never reached her eyes. After they left with his boxes, I immediately called the police non-emergency line. The officer I spoke with was polite, but not particularly helpful. Without concrete proof of theft, he explained, this was considered a civil matter. I'd need to pursue recovery through small claims court if Noah refused to return my property voluntarily. But I wasn't naive about documentation. Over the years, I'd been meticulous about recording my camera collection. My photography blog contained detailed posts about each acquisition, complete with photographs, purchase receipts, and technical reviews. I had Instagram posts showing Noah using specific pieces from my collection at various photo shoots, screenshots of text messages where he'd asked to borrow particular cameras for different projects. I also called my renter's insurance company. They confirmed that theft was covered under my policy, but I'd need a police report as documentation before they could process any claims. Classic bureaucratic catch-22 situation. I found a lawyer who offered free initial consultations and scheduled an appointment for the following Tuesday. Meanwhile, Noah kept texting me from different phone numbers since I'd blocked his primary line. You're really calling the cops over some old cameras? This is psychotic behavior. They're probably just misplaced somewhere you forgot about. This constitutes harassment, and I'm documenting everything. The lawyer consultation proved more encouraging than I'd expected. After reviewing my documentation, the blog posts, Instagram photos, text message screenshots, and purchase receipts, she was optimistic about my chances. This is actually stronger evidence than most theft cases I handle, she told me. The documentation on your blog with timestamps, the photographs showing the collection in your possession, and your ex-boyfriend's own admissions via text that he borrowed specific items creates a clear paper trail. File the police report again with this evidence package. I did exactly that. This time, the responding officer actually took the situation seriously. He said they'd follow up with Noah directly and gave me a case number for reference. 2 days later, my phone exploded with calls from blocked numbers. The cops came to my studio asking about cameras. This is harassment, Meredith. You're trying to ruin my life over some stupid vintage equipment. I'll consider returning what I can find if you drop this investigation immediately. I replied through my lawyer as she'd advised. Return the complete collection in original condition. Provide photographic proof of all 15 cameras within 24 hours. Then we'll discuss dropping the police report. Radio silence for exactly 1 day. Then Kelsey messaged me on Instagram. I'd forgotten to block her on that platform. This is getting completely out of hand. Noah's really stressed about this whole situation. He doesn't even know where half of those cameras are anymore. Some might have gotten damaged during the studio move last month. Just drop this legal nonsense and move on with your life. Damaged during a studio move. So she just admitted in writing that they had possession of my cameras and that some were damaged. I immediately screenshotted her message and forwarded it to my lawyer. Beautiful, my attorney responded via email. They just admitted possession and implied damage to your property. We can add compensation for damages to the lawsuit now. I filed small claims court paperwork the next day. Filing fee cost $85. I sued for $4,200, estimated replacement value based on current market prices for similar vintage cameras, plus additional damages for the potentially destroyed equipment, plus my filing fees and initial lawyer consultation costs. Noah got served with legal papers at the photography studio where he taught part-time workshops. Suddenly, Kelsey's number started appearing constantly in my blocked calls list, and his brother Jamie tried reaching me through his girlfriend's phone. Meredith, this has gotten completely crazy. You're destroying his reputation in the photography community over some old cameras. Just drop the lawsuit and work this out like adults. Old cameras. Everyone kept calling them old cameras, like they were worthless junk from a garage sale instead of valuable vintage equipment worth thousands of dollars. I texted back through my lawyer's office number. He stole $3,200 worth of photography equipment and refused to return it when asked politely. His girlfriend admitted in writing that some cameras were damaged. This is the adult way to handle theft. Here's the part I'm not entirely proud of, though I don't regret it. I wrote a detailed blog post about the entire experience. I didn't name Noah or Kelsey specifically, but I laid out exactly what had happened. The anniversary dinner hijacking, the expensive wine incident, the missing camera collection, and the legal process I was pursuing to recover my stolen property. My photography blog typically got around 800 regular readers, mostly other camera collectors and photography enthusiasts. This post went viral within the photography community, reaching 2,400 shares across Instagram and specialized forums. People were absolutely furious on my behalf, and several commenters shared similar stories about partners or ex-partners who'd stolen or damaged expensive equipment during breakups. Someone in the photography community identified Noah's studio from contextual details in my post and left negative reviews mentioning the theft allegations. The studio owner, understandably not wanting legal drama associated with his business, asked Noah to find alternative workspace arrangements. He was essentially evicted from the photography space where he'd been building his professional reputation. Now Kelsey was really spiraling. She messaged me from yet another social media account. You need to stop this immediately. He lost his studio access because of your vindictive blog post. Over what? Some cameras? Be a grown woman and let this go. I replied, he lost his studio because he stole $3,200 worth of equipment and refused to return it for weeks. Actions have consequences. Tell him to return my collection or see me in court. 2 weeks before our scheduled court date, the pressure campaign from Noah's family intensified. His mother called me directly, her voice shaking with emotion. Honey, I know you're hurt, but is this really worth destroying his entire career over? He made a mistake, but he's a good person who's learned his lesson. He stole from me and refused to return my property for weeks. When his girlfriend finally offered information about the cameras, she admitted they were damaged. That's not a mistake, Go. That's deliberate destruction of my property. What do you want here? Just the cameras back? I want my property returned in the exact condition it was taken, or full compensation plus damages for what's been destroyed. 3 days before court, I received a text from Jamie's phone. Found 9 of the cameras in storage. Some have scratches on the cases. Some lenses look cloudy. That's all we could locate. Take it or leave it. 9 out of 15 cameras, including none of the rare pieces from my collection. Where are the other 6 cameras? Specifically, Where's the 1954 Leica 3 if that's worth $800 alone? Don't know, probably got sold accidentally during the studio cleaning. Sold accidentally. My vintage Leica, gone forever. Probably sold to some pawn shop for $50. Some random person got the deal of a lifetime while I was out $800 plus irreplaceable sentimental value. I didn't respond to that text. Court day arrived exactly 3 weeks after I'd filed the paperwork. I came prepared with printed copies of my blog documentation, original receipts, photographs, and text message screenshots. Noah showed up with what appeared to be a public defender, some guy in an ill-fitting suit who looked annoyed to be handling a small claims case. Kelsey sat in the gallery section, wearing dark sunglasses like she was trying to avoid paparazzi, which would have been laughable if the situation weren't so serious. The judge called us forward. Noah's lawyer attempted to paint me as vindictive from the start. Your Honor, my client admits he may have accidentally misplaced some photography equipment during an emotional breakup, but the plaintiff is using the legal system to harass him. He's offered to return whatever he can locate. My turn. My lawyer presented the comprehensive evidence package, time-stamped blog posts showing the complete collection in my possession, Noah's written admissions that he'd borrowed specific cameras for projects, Kelsey's Instagram messages admitting they had possession and some equipment was damaged. We included current market valuations for each missing piece. The judge looked increasingly skeptical as Noah's story unfolded. Counselor, does your client have the 6 missing cameras, particularly the Leica valued at $800? Whispered conversation between Noah and his attorney. Your Honor, my client believes several pieces may have been accidentally sold during a studio cleaning operation. He accidentally sold an $800 vintage camera? The judge's eyebrows shot up dramatically, more desperate whispering. Your Honor, emotions were elevated after the relationship ended. My client may have acted rashly, but he's offered to return what he can. But nothing. The judge cut him off sharply. This is straightforward theft and destruction of property. The plaintiff provided clear evidence of ownership and current market value. Your client admitted possession in writing, and his associate admitted to damages via social media. The evidence is overwhelming. Final judgment, $36.50. Replacement cost for the 6 missing cameras, repair estimates for the damaged equipment returned, plus my filing fees and legal consultation costs. Noah's face went completely white. Kelsey started crying audibly in the gallery section. His lawyer attempted to argue for a payment plan, which the judge approved, $200 monthly until the debt was satisfied. Outside the courthouse, Noah's entire family was waiting like some kind of intervention group. His mother approached me first, her eyes red from crying. I hope you're satisfied now. You've completely ruined his photography career. He ruined his own career when he chose to steal from me instead of simply returning my cameras when I asked politely. His brother stepped forward aggressively. This is completely messed up, Meredith. All because you couldn't handle him having female friends. No. All because he prioritized his female friend over his girlfriend of 3 years, then stole my property when I established reasonable boundaries about being respected in my own relationship. I walked to my car and drove home. That evening, his mother made one final attempt via text message about forgiveness and second chances and how I was destroying a good man's future over material possessions. I replied, a good man doesn't steal from his partner and refused to return her property. The judge agreed this constituted theft. I'm finished discussing this. Then I blocked the entire family. The 9 cameras Noah eventually returned were essentially worthless. Cases cracked, lenses scratched beyond repair, some bodies dented like they'd been dropped repeatedly. My insurance covered most of the damage since the court judgment established legal proof of theft. But that 1954 Leica? Gone forever, probably sitting in someone's closet who has no idea what they own. I'm rebuilding my collection slowly. It'll take years and considerable money, but at least Noah's contributing $200 monthly toward the effort. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard he's working retail now. The photography studio situation never recovered after the theft allegations spread through the local arts community. Started seeing someone new recently, early days, but he actually listens when I talk and doesn't invite other people to our dates. The bar feels pretty low these days, but we're clearing it easily. My camera collection will eventually be restored. Self-respect was harder to rebuild, but therapy helped me understand why I'd tolerated being treated as secondary in my own relationship. Material things can be replaced. Boundaries, once established and maintained, are priceless.